eventually you get absorbed in and you are Sonic.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to No Repeat. It's a podcast where we pick 3 songs every week with no repeats and no do-overs to create a perfect playlist for every occasion life throws at you. I'm Taylor Olmstead, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Tyler Reed.
You know, I was really sad to say goodbye to summer until the last day of it was over 90 degrees and I was melting the entire day. So, you know what? Fall's good, actually.
And Sean Evans.
So, today was the start of cyclocross, and I had the most Cleveland experience because they warmed it up by having the national anthem played Jimi Hendrix style on electric guitar, and there was just like a couple Boy Scouts standing under this elevated deck, just like scout saluting the American flag, and I was just like, God, this is it. This is the most Cleveland thing that could possibly happen, and to inaugurate fall. So.
And joining us from the podcast, my ex and I, we have Natalie.
Yeah, I didn't know we were talking during this part, but I'm happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
And Michael.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm very excited. I do not miss summer. I'm excited for the cool weather. I anticipate it all summer long, and just, once again, ignoring football season.
Oh, no.
Well, Tyler, what was our challenge this week?
This week, we were challenged to find the perfect song for the autumnal change in Ohio, submitted by Jack Crofts. And if you want to submit your own challenge, you can DM us, add us, NoRepeatPod on Instagram and Twitter, or you can always send us an email, norepeatpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much.
So Tyler recommended we bring Natalie and Michael in as fellow subject matter experts on this challenge because we really wanted to be as regionally specific as possible. So we have a whole panel of current Ohioans, former Ohioans, lots of different experience in the Midwest. And I think to start us off, I just would love to get everybody's thoughts about the liminal space between summer and fall in Ohio, because I've lived in Georgia now for 6 years. It feels like a distant memory to me.
I love it. I honestly think this is the time of year when I reflect the most. I feel like it is and I tried to capture this with my song a little bit, the time I spend alone in my car driving around with the windows rolled down. I don't need the AC anymore. It's a little cool outside and I can feel the breeze. And so it's just like this very quiet time. And it's like it's not the prettiest time of year. It's not the coldest or the warmest. I just very enjoy how like in between everything it feels. It definitely makes me think about my life a lot.
You're not a fall leaves person? You'll find the beauty and the decay of nature?
I certainly do, but in an effort to like very much appreciate this space, I need to take note of that.
My mom was a public school teacher, and so for me, the start of fall, end of summer is like very inextricably linked to the start of a new school year. And I think for that reason, like fall very, very much feels almost like more of a new year than like actual January 1st does. Like, I don't know. I love the liminal space of it feels like a beginning and an ending all at once.
I feel like September for me has not ever felt like fall. I feel like I barely acknowledge it, but I've really tried to sort of get into the spirit early and sort of accept that I feel like fall really is warm winter, and so it's going to be more warm than it's going to be cold, but of course there's the gradient of that, right? And so I feel like I'm really trying to sort of really take in sort of while it's warm, the sunniness, sort of like all of the pleasantries of it, because I think, like Michael said, a part of his song feels a little bit like there becomes a grayness, there becomes a little bit more sort of reflective, introspective time. I feel like in fall that I feel like really, really makes fall great, but I'm kind of still just trying to enjoy this part where, I feel like getting out still and kind of enjoying the sort of the wind being cold, but the sun being hot. And it's a nice combo.
Sean, you just moved back to Ohio from Virginia. What are you feeling your first fall back in the North?
Oh, I love it. I'm like a big fall head, so this is my season. I'm not like shy about telling people that, and if you like want to fight me about it, hit me up on Instagram. We'll go there.
Where all public beefs happen, Instagram.
Right.
I'm feeling a light 1 on Sean.
Oh no.
So yeah, no, I mean, so the leaves have like just started changing here, which is exciting because I feel like at least in Northern Virginia, your fall is like 2 weeks. It just goes from like high 80s to 40s like that. So it's up and then down. And I always kind of really hated that because it just feels like there's a huge pressure to get in at all the fall that you possibly can. And now that I'm here, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I can like totally I need to revamp my sweater wardrobe and everything's going to change so slow. There's like big maples all over our yard now, and they're all starting to change like one by one, and there's like red maples everywhere. Oh, it's so good. I can't wait. Just in heaven.
I'm living vicariously through you all. It was 91 degrees here yesterday, and we were at an outdoor wedding. Fall in Georgia is weird. It's like the only time that it's truly livable here, but it also only lasts 2 weeks. Because the spring is too much pollen, the summer is too hot, and in the winter it just rains. But you get 2 glorious weeks in the middle of October where everything is perfect. And I can feel them coming, right? Like the lows in the morning are like 59, and I'm like, ooh, something has changed. But then it's still like 91 by 5 p.m. because this is still the South. So I really miss, like Sean was talking about, like the slow grade into autumn. The like weird, like flipping a switch weather that we get down here. It doesn't do it for me. It doesn't have the sense of like liminality or like true change. It's just like, oh yeah, I guess we're done with it being hot now. And like that really bothers me. But in the hindsight, like, I don't know. There's always a day every fall, even when I was growing up in Ohio, where it was like the first day that you can wear jeans all day. You don't have to switch into shorts. Like that always felt like a major achievement. Like that was when fall arrived. Do y'all have like a similar like moment where like this is the change, like the fall has come?
Yeah.
I just quit sweating through all my clothes.
Yeah, right.
Because I never change wardrobe, so it's just like, oh, okay, my outfit makes sense now.
This flannel is seasonally appropriate again.
Yeah.
There's an episode of Sex and the City where it starts with like Carrie doing a monologue, and she's like, there's always that first day of fall when there's a chill in the air and you realize that you need another blanket on your bed. And I always like think about that, and sometimes I get that blanket.
It's the exact moment that I feel guilty that I don't donate to Folk Alley. Because inevitably every fall I start listening to that.
Your real NPR nerd comes out and you're like, oh boy, the pledge drive is coming. I need it in tote bag.
How do they know every year?
Because you spent all summer going to the farmer's market and you've worn out the straps. That's the true way we measure seasons.
That's right. Let's ignore the fact that I work for Hot Pockets. I definitely go to the farmer's market.
For sure. I mean, I bought a Knish today at the farmer's market. That's like an artisanal Hot Pocket.
Yeah. Do they have artisanal Pop-Tarts in your area?
The local bakery had a stone fruit galette, which is like an open-faced Pop-Tart. So, sure.
Like a Danish?
Kind of. Listen, I live in the suburbs now, Sean. I have to take every ounce of local joy that I can. I had to go past the chain restaurants to get to the farmer's market. It's fine.
Is a pizza an open-faced Pop-Tart in your mind?
Oh, no.
We're not doing this. We're not.
Get out. We can't. We can't.
Tyler, tell me when you know it's fall.
Oh, well, since I'm a small boy, I just always just wear shorts all the time until the last possible moment. So when I know that my legs are too chilly, that's really what it is. It's when you transfer over to actual pants. But I'm trying to buck the trend. I said I'm gonna wear pants anyway. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna look like I'm gonna die from an easily curable disease on the market day, and I'm gonna sweat it out. I'm just gonna deal with it. I don't know if I'm gonna last until it actually reaches equilibrium, but I'm gonna try.
I respect your commitment, sir.
Mostly because I've been wearing shorts all summer, so it's just like they are exceptionally drafty. So it's just like.
That's the marketing slogan, right?
Yeah.
Exceptionally drafty. So on this show, it feels like every fall we end up talking a lot about folk music. I'm curious for our guests, you have not been in the same like musical milieu that the three of us have literally since we were in high school together and trading songs on our iPods. What is fall music to you?
I very much agree with that. That was one of my struggles picking the song for this episode. Is like that was my impulse. Like when I think of fall music, I think of like arpeggiation on a guitar or something. Just like I can't. That's all I think about. Or maybe some Midwest like emo guitar. But folk very much feels like the right vibe for this time of year. And maybe that's why I didn't pick one. I think I was maybe trying to work against that or trying to come up with a different vibe, but I definitely relate to that.
Yeah, I think for me it's like a lot of like 70s. I feel like Fleetwood Mac and Carly Simon and like that kind of stuff has always been fall to me. Simon and Garfunkel, just because I don't know. I was also listening to some of the like lo-fi Mountain Goats albums the other day, and I was like, ooh, lo-fi feels kind of autumnal on the ears.
For sure.
There's something about like coziness.
Yeah.
I'm with y'all. I was trying to kind of buck the trend this year as well, because we've had a fall challenge at least once before. And I was like, I'm not going to pick another folk song. Like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to listen to Tyler and immediately pull out the Fleet Foxes as soon as I hear a nip in the air. Like,
let's go.
I wanted to do something different this year. And I was trying to really think about, like, the challenge was the autumnal transition. And I think there is something really interesting about the fall transition in particular because you go from hot to cold. Because the fall to winter is like cool to cold, and then winter to spring is like cold to cool. But it feels like fall is, in temperature wise, like kind of the most drastic. You know, there are years where fall just like comes on all at once, and you have to like pull the sweaters out in a hurry. And so that's kind of what I was after.
I love that. I think we were of a similar mindset there. Because I think I was kind of in the same headspace.
The encroaching darkness that happens a little sooner than you wanted to.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Dang, I was, because I think somebody told me, I'm not gonna fact check this, but apparently Ohio or Cincinnati has like as many overcast days as like Portland. So we're really not. We're kind of it's a miserable part of the world anyway. Like so I feel like it probably does have a decent amount of overcast or sort of like low energy sort of like feeling kind of days. But I feel like my autumnal transition was more about sort of, like I said in my initial sort of statement, was that to sort of really invoke sort of like the feeling of the coldness of the breeze and the warmth of the sun to sort of like really taking that all in and sort of enjoying the change and really sort of trying to be present and try to find the good, you know, just try to celebrate the change more so than the dread of what is like what is to come. And I feel like there's so many fun little activities and stuff you can do. Sort of like there's something about going out into the country and you're like, well, you gotta have a banjo.
That's true for sure.
You gotta get some pumpkins. We gotta get some apples. Banjo o'clock, baby.
I don't know what it is about fall that like specifically makes me want to be a farm girl. Like
Yeah,
it's the
dude.
best time to be a little cowgirl. I
sure.
went to an orchard today and I pet cows and fed goats and got lost in a corn maze and it was a great fall day.
See, I think you're onto something. It's the harvest.
Yeah,
And at least for my particular upbringing, it was the fair. Because my mom grew up in the country. And school started like September 15th or something when she grew up because it had to be after the fair. Because otherwise all the kids were just going to take off school the whole week because they were going to be at the fair. And so I do
Did
think...
she grow up in Ohio?
Oh, yeah. She grew up out southeast of Columbus, like near the West Virginia line.
Okay, cool.
And so, like, we would always go back to her hometown for the fair in the fall. Like, it was the social event of her tiny little town. And I feel like, you know, there is something too, like, that's when all the interesting stuff happens on the farm. That's when the crops are ready to eat. That's when the animals are big enough to, unfortunately, be sold and slaughtered and etc. But it's also, like, the time when you show off your work, right? Like, the fair is literally bringing all your stuff to the market, essentially. So I do think there is something like, you know, this cycle of life, if you will. The calves are born in the spring and you sell them off in the fall.
And that's the way it goes.
Sean, how did you pick this week? Were you slaughtering cattle?
Oh no. I was definitely more of the fall emo that Michael was talking about.
I'm in.
Yeah. I don't want to say it was a nostalgic kind of pick as much as I want to say that it was a pick that just works for me on an emotional level. Like, I don't look back fondly on those times, right? I just like that sound. I enjoy that audio aesthetic. So that was kind of where I wanted to go. I've been into this band for maybe a few months now, and I think it's time to put them on the playlist, so it just felt right.
Would you say that it's a form of future nostalgia?
Is that a thing?
No,
You're
I
the
was...
media expert. I
You
don't
wouldn't know. I don't know why you're saying that.
No, I was just referencing a Dua Lipa album. It's fine.
Okay.
I thought you were referencing a John Green novel where he says imagining the future is a form of nostalgia.
Oh, well,
Also
that's also
good.
fair. And that's a great
No wrong
quote.
answers.
What? Yeah, what a quote.
I had a phase.
I was gonna say I didn't expect you to pull out a John Green quote specifically.
Hey.
Were all in middle school.
Sure.
Hey,
yeah, that's
Pizza
true.
Miss starts tomorrow.
Oh boy.
So
So everybody get your socks ready.
that's right. All right, well,
Gotta
does anybody
leave
feel
your-
strongly about going first this week? If not, I can.
I would love an example.
You got it. I will go first. This week I chose Come On Over Now by Floor. So I absolutely shot from the hip this week because I went with some friends to a Floor show here in Atlanta. And middle of the set, they played this song, and I was like, this is it. This is the one. Great live band, by the way. They're a synth pop rock quartet from somewhere in Oregon. I want to say either Portland or Eugene. And there's something about this like dream pop sound that feels very late summer. But the mid-tempo of this track and the kind of descending guitar riff on the chorus really feels like that sudden snap of like now it's fall and all the leaves are falling all at once. And it has this kind of urgency to it of like you have to enjoy fall while you have it, while the transition is happening before it gets too cold. You know, it's still a joyous occasion, but it's a little melancholy because it's like acknowledging the changing of the seasons and that you need to get it going. The song is more about getting ghosted, but you know, lyrics aren't that important. Sometimes it's just about a vibe. And I think what Floor succeeds at the most is a vibe. Like his vocal delivery is so strange, and yet it meshes so well with these guitars. Like, I don't know. I've been riding on the high of this concert all week. It was really, really fun.
Hell yeah. I really liked about that song, like, I don't know, whenever I think of fall, I tend to think of fall evenings specifically, but that song made me think of fall daytime and like fall getting things done.
Yeah, okay. Because I feel like for me the hard part was trying to figure out where this fits in. Because I feel like you get sent the song without context, and that's sort of the fun of discovery of why we're here. And so I was like, when is this gonna fit in? What time of day? And I can definitely see daytime. I understand that, like a maybe even like a 5 or 6 p.m. Like it's still sunny out, but.
We're not sitting around a bonfire just yet, you know.
No.
Yeah.
We're getting ready for the gathering.
And so then, if you can remind me again, Taylor, you're sort of thinking about. I feel like this song is very chill. It has a little bit of it's a very moderate tempo, and I feel like for me, I'm thinking. I think the soundscape works fine. I think all of the sort of like I think there's a lot of sort of like. Really distorted like guitar feels very spacey, feels like you're in a place, so the production I feel like works well. Do you feel like you could quantify what sort of like what the thing made you feel like fall? Like is there what is the element that really strikes fall for you?
I think it's a combination of like it sounding a little summery, but too sad for summer.
Yeah.
And then also the kind of like vaguely yearning sense of it. You know, it does kind of feel like driving out to the woods to like go to the bonfire, kind of like you can see the good times in the distance, but it's not quite there. Like fall is a lot of anticipation. It's the new school year. It's, you know, there's a lot. It's an exciting time, but it's also kind of like there's a little bit of touch and go to it.
Okay. I vibe with that.
Sean doesn't look amused.
No, okay, so let me just put it this way. It's the elephant in the room for me. You picked a low-key sexy song.
Always the one to call it out. I was thinking when I put this in, I'm like, Sean's going to call out that this is kind of sexy. Like, it's basically a booty call.
Yeah.
Love it.
At least it wasn't me this time. Usually it's me.
Well, so the reason it's like kind of in the front of my mind because last night my wife and I were talking about it. And so I remember like listening to this show like 6 years ago or something, and we'll talk about it as like cuffing season. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? It's just like I gotta find somebody that's gonna get cold. Oh my god, I'm gonna be alone. No one's gonna get me a Christmas gift. This is gonna be really weird for me. But now that we're like in our mid-30s, like a new form has started to happen. I don't know if this has been happening to anybody else, but like that one friend who you haven't talked to in like months reaches out to you, or maybe even years, and they're like, oh yeah, like, do you want to like hang out sometime? And I'm just thinking like, oh my god, is this like friend cuffing season? Is this what happens to you when you get older, that they're like, oh shit, like I don't want to go into the holidays and not have somebody to tell how bad my family is. Like crap. Like
I gotta get a board game night going stat, or I'm not gonna see any humans all winter.
So I appreciate the song. I think it's good. They kind of remind me of a Ed Sheeran Under Oath band.
Wait.
Like, they have that vibe kind of going, but it's not. It's definitely. I mean, come on. They're like a bunch of like young alternative dudes. This is like going into a Urban Outfitters real sexifyingly, and like, hey, can you give me all those clothes and those cute guitars? And you did it. I'm glad.
Yeah, they absolutely would have been featured on like an episode of The OC or something back in the day.
Oh yeah.
The soul read on this song. Sean nailed it.
Trust me when I tell you, the audience at this concert was like 50% various forms of queers, myself included, and 50% like the dreamiest, most ethereal Urban Outfitters, like yuppie kids.
Oh, I get it. It feels right. It's a good song. I'm not even that bashing it like that. It's quality.
But the audience is like, you listen to it and you're like, I know who this is for.
I see you.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes you open up a playlist from Spotify and you're like, I don't know what any of this is, but it's like got millions of listens, and I'm like, okay, this is certainly for a person that exists in the world, but how does it happen? How do they get found?
Somebody's building those Spotify playlists. And like the one song will have millions of listens, but then you go to the artist and it's like 400 plays a month.
Yeah.
And you're like, who are you? Good for you.
They've got at least one bag. Not
Yeah, right.
That's all you need.
That's all you need.
All right, who wants to go next?
I can go next.
All right, Sean, what do you have for us?
All right, so this week I chose At It Again by Slowpulp. Discovered this band probably like 3 or 4 months ago, and I've been slowly working through their catalog, and I've been really impressed with their indie post-emo sound. Is that right? Like, that might be a really off-base comment to make there, so if I'm wrong, my apologies. But
No, I feel that. I think that's fine.
Okay. Because, so I think what I was really drawn to is the fact that it's like a little heavier and that it's a little grittier, and that's one thing that I like about fall, especially in Ohio, is that there's a little bit more textures here, because, and it coming from Arlington, it's like very noticeable to me now, because like I was describing earlier, it's just like summer, winter, boom, like that's it. There's not a lot of stuff, and there's not this like prolonged season that is fall. And I feel like, too, every year we do a fall challenge in some way, shape, or form. And I thought that the title of the song fit really well, too, playing into this. I mean, this is just something that, to what Michael said, too, windows down, rolling home down a 2-lane road. I'm blasting this thing in the fall. It just felt right. That was my intent here.
I feel it. I feel it so hard. It's got a little bit of Alanis Morissette in there. It's got a little bit of Smashing Pumpkins in there. I enjoy the like switch up to an acoustic vibe for a little while in there, and then it just kind of fades out softly, like the reverse of what you would expect, right? You would think they'd start acoustic and build, but they start heavy and go down, which is kind of nice. It makes me think of like 90s movies where people drive around in the drop-top Jeep, because that was apparently the only car you owned as a teenager in the 90s. And I want to drive through the mountains in a drop-top Jeep to this song. That sounds fun as hell.
So putting these two together, I sort of realized that I feel like Taylor's is very much like a contemporary sort of like of the era, like all alternative song, sort of like in a more like a mainstream sense, kind of a very trendy at the moment. And I feel like Sean's is also a contemporary song, but I feel like it invokes sort of like the bubble grunge genre, the nebulous whatever that is, you know, but it's like clearly referencing sort of like a bygone era and sort of recontextualizing it for like a new audience. And I feel like that sound already kind of made me feel like fall, so I feel like it was easier for me to get Sean's like right away as like, this is like a kind of like a distorted grungy fall vibe versus kind of like what Taylor's was doing. But I can see the validity of both of them. I definitely remember for a time putting on Smashing Pumpkins. What's the one with Cherub Rock on it?
Gish.
Gish. And, I think Mayonnaise, is the first song on that. And I feel like the distortion on that is just so heavy. And I feel like, we were talking about, is that a fuzziness, a warmness, sort of like a lo-fi quality almost really sort of like gets you feeling the warmth of fall. And so it gives you warmth, but it also sort of is distressed in a way. And so it feels like it leaves you feeling a little melancholy in that way. And so, yeah, I think this is cool. It's definitely feels like fall. And I feel like, as a area of the world, I feel like Ohio is sort of rock centric. So I feel like this is definitely the right kind of sound for the regional specificity.
Yeah, I would agree. I love the sound of this, especially the vocals. I thought that was so sick. And I think that this song reminded me a lot of what I am hearing right now from local Chicago bands. And I feel like it seems very right now, very, to age myself, what the kids are doing. Like this, I like listening to that song made me feel I was like at a garage show. It feels very DIY and current.
This is the band I thought I would be in right now when I was a teenager, like that yes. that is very much the feeling I had while listening to it. I think like this was a vibe that an option for me when I was thinking about vibes to try to capture, obviously not this song specifically. I really like it. I think I'm glad I didn't go this route because I would have been really shown up with this pick because it is exactly what I was thinking when I was first thinking about fall and kind of like trying to capture that. Again, this feels like a fall from my teenage years, but set in like more of a contemporary sound.
So anybody would have dumped on this song a little bit? Like, was there anything? Is this, like, I appreciate doing really well, but like,
honestly, it could be longer. Which is not something. It's not something we say on the show a lot, but it does feel a little. I don't want to call it half-baked because I praised the structure so much at the top, but I think maybe just one more chorus repetition just to really kind of drive it home. Like it does feel like it fizzles a little.
Yeah. Like ending on a bridge is kind of weird. That's kind of what it feels like. You're like, huh.
Yeah. But I mean, leave them wanting more, I guess.
Let's see, what's this album looking like? How long are some of these songs?
That's a good point. If they were all like this, I would be worried. But
I think like songs getting shorter is like a big conversation right now. Like TikTok is killing the bridge.
Yeah,
it is. It absolutely is.
Oh my god!
And you get paid by number of streams, not time streamed.
Right.
So the shorter your song is, you're actually making more money.
Oh, that's interesting.
Deeply unfortunate.
Yeah, that is weird.
It's like the Flappy Birds effect.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
This is why we don't see Coheed and Cambria and Dream Theater anymore.
That's exactly
That's the
why.
only reason.
This is why rock is dead. That's right.
All right, who's up next?
I can go.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, Michael.
Yeah, so I picked Open Mike Eagle, Everything Ends Last Year.
We tried starting a movement, we tried starting a record label. Our friendships have been ruined. Good brothers in arguments about money, data, and music. We created illusions, then the fighting went public and frightened all the consumers, and it ended. Just fell apart. It's October and I'm tired.
Open Mike Eagle is a rapper that I've listened to for probably like 10 years now. I remember when his second project, I think, came out. He's a Midwest dude. He's from Chicago, has since moved to Los Angeles. I actually think you guys, I'm pretty sure I saw a song from this record on your playlist. I'm almost positive.
Yes.
Spider-Man Sweat.
I adore this record. I'm so glad that you do as well.
It's so good. And Open Mike Eagle like has had a really interesting career to me and presents stylistically in a way that I don't think a lot of other rappers do. And he's transcending genres in a way that isn't isn't unique to him. Certainly other people are doing it, but he's just always had something about his sound that I found particularly gripping. And so I've been a fan for a really long time. Yeah, he's again, and I feel like he has some of that Midwestern angst being from Chicago, even though he's been in Los Angeles and kind of established himself as an artist in Los Angeles. And so there's a lot of that as well, especially like the underground and battle rap scene in his music. But yeah, I picked this song because first of all, I wanted to pick something that was in my rotation currently. I don't know, when I was thinking about songs, I was like really searching, and then I kind of decided that it would feel inauthentic to reach too far, because I am someone who I don't have a music podcast. I'm not like constantly exploring music right now. I'm kind of in a space where I'm like supporting the artists that I love and checking in with them, but I haven't been exploring a ton. And so I did want to pick something that was like already in my rotation, and Open Mike Eagle is pretty close to the top of that. And so I was like listening through his discography. I thought he would have something. And Anime Trauma and Divorce is a fantastic record. And then when I heard like the chorus refrain thing in this song where it's just it's October and I'm tired, I was like, okay, yeah. All right, Mike. Yeah, for sure. This is gonna be it. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, I was kind of thinking of myself driving in the middle of the night with those windows rolled down and contemplating the year that I've had thus far and kind of getting ready for winter. But fall into winter doesn't feel as contemplative for me, because it just kind of feels like the hibernation time of year. It's like I've already done my reflecting. Now I'm just kind of hunkering down and waiting for the new year to come in. And so this song is a lot of him lamenting missed opportunity and things falling apart, which I really like. He's talking about a television show that he put all his hopes and dreams in that didn't work out. He's talking about a record label and hip hop collective that he was in that didn't work out. And it's a lot of hopelessness, but in the context of his career, I was listening to it and really struck with like how he failed to mention, he didn't talk about Brick Body Kid Still Daydream, which is like the record that he put out after those two things happened. That was his most like critically acclaimed and commercially successful album he'd ever done. He didn't talk about his burgeoning comedy career that like is kind of coming up, and I really liked, and he also is talking about hopelessness and kind of feeling like and saying all these things collapsed, and I'm in a place where I don't have those things anymore. But he's literally creating art while doing that, and thus kind of making that point moot, because he's already on to the next thing, and you're literally experiencing it in that moment, which I really loved. And like, even though this song felt so hopeless, just the fact that it existed in the fact that I kind of have context for his career made me feel a little hopeful, which I think captured the season really well. And then the beat itself is kind of like it's very simple. It's very pretty but heartbreaking, and it's kind of like at points off beat and like very, very interesting, and it isn't a big sound. It's kind of the opposite of like the folk guitar that I was referencing at the beginning, but I really liked that. It felt like the drive home from the event rather than the drive to the event, you know, the bonfire or whatever. And so I just really love this record and really love this song.
Taking the words right out of my mouth, man. It's
cool.
A beautiful track, heart-wrenching. And I'm glad that you talked about the beat, because I think it is an underappreciated part of Mike's work that he builds almost all of his own beats.
Yeah.
There are a couple projects where he's worked with producers, and I love those too, but there's something about the way that he programs sounds to play off of his voice rather than just create a background to his voice that I really appreciate. And this beat in particular, it screams fall to me. It's got this very like sentimental, like almost music box kind of sound to it.
Yeah.
That I just really dig. But then you get those trumpets at the end, which are playing this kind of like almost triumphant fanfare, even though he's talking about his divorce. Like, the juxtapositions are really, really cool. Yeah, I love this track. Well done.
Thank you.
So I think before my commentary, some context. Michael and I are guests on this podcast right now. We do a show called My Ex and I. From the title, you might be able to glean that Michael and I are former lovers.
Ooh, so saucy.
It was.
It super was the sauciest. But so I obviously like know Michael very well, and I have witnessed Michael be a fan of Open Mike Eagle for a long time, to a point where me having no other knowledge of his work, he is related to Michael in my brain forever now. And you know, when you picked this song, Michael, for this challenge, immediately it made sense to me because you and I met in the autumn after talking for an entire summer, and to me this song is fall in the same way that to me you are fall, and that was my experience with it.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about my drives to see you when we first started dating. But like that specifically middle of the night drive to Bowling Green, Ohio was what I was kind of thinking of when I was picking songs.
It feels like a really great song for like soundtracking the invasive thoughts you have about social anxiety of the party you just left, and the one thing you maybe kind of said kind of wrong, and I feel like those are the kind of drives where you don't listen to anything, and I feel like this song is like a song that feels like you're not listening to anything, because like you're saying, it's very skeletal in that way, and that's what kind of makes it feel so contemplative, reflective, and introspective, and I think it's really cool, and I feel like that's what makes, like, I'm not a big like rap head, but I really appreciate Open Mike Eagle because I feel like he really brings a lot of brings a lot of himself into it. I feel like it's very personable, and it feels like it's sort of, it's very, it feels like it's arty. It feels like he's really making like an artistic product, and that's not to say that, but it feels like it feels more like an experience, a piece, because like, this isn't like supposed to be played, like in the club, right? Kind of like how Kendrick's newest album, like there's, what's the song where they just fight? There's the big long.
Oh
yeah. It's basically a spoken word. Yeah, it's like a spoken word piece more than a song.
Yeah. So that's like, I feel like this kind of, I feel like this is a little bit more of a song in that way. But yeah, I feel like it still has that same sort of like feeling to me, where it's like it feels impactful and it feels heavy, but and I can totally sense the sort of like, it almost feels cold to listen to, like you feel a breeze as you're hearing him sort of like speak his truth, and I think I feel like that really evokes fall for me. I think it good.
Thank
Bonus points are saying October.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I forgot. We haven't said it yet, but he gets bonus points for saying October.
Two things. First, I was at a conference a couple weeks ago, and there was a panel, and somebody brought up the term Midwestern kindness. Is it? Okay, I saw like a lot of heads nodding there, so everybody kind of understands what this is, but let me just explain it for people who don't know, and tell me if I get it wrong too. Midwestern kindness is like this nice way of being blunt with somebody, like being honest, right? So you might say like, yeah, like you're really pretty, but your feet are big. Or I'm just like coming up with like a really outlandish thing, like it's, or like this is great, but it's never gonna work.
There's a great TikToker, Your Midwestern Mom, who makes the recipes from like your church potluck and kind of roasts them in the process. But she always talks about how you have to be Minnesota nice. It's like that nice, but with like a bite to it. Or, and now it's time to crush up these pecans. I like to use a rolling pin to get out all those Minnesota nice feelings. Like that kind of nice,
And so I like this song because I feel like there's, when you were speaking to open mic being from Chicago, I was like, I get this feeling with his music. I haven't listened to that much of it, but I appreciate that about him, that he is going to tell it like it is. And he's speaking about all this like bad that's happening as you're going into the fall, and kind of fall representing the opposite of what I think it is like this flourishing time, right? But that brings me to my second point, which I think is really interesting, because the beat, I feel like, is juxtaposed to the lyrics a little bit, because you have this like rising build sometimes, which is really beautiful, as opposed to the lyrics, which, so it's like bringing out the best in one another. And I thought that was really interesting. I mean, I haven't listened to this album. I think, like you said, we have one song on here before. I can't remember which one it was, but and it was good. It was like really exciting to listen to, and a lot more on like the third and fourth listen. I had way more enjoyment out of it than my initial listen, where I was like, okay, like it's a solid song. Now I really appreciate him as an artist and kind of what he's saying here through his music and through his lyrics.
All right, we only got two more. Who's lucky number 4?
I can go.
All right, Natalie, tell us about your song.
Yeah, I picked The Ghost of Cincinnati by Big Red Machine.
I'm looking at you through the hole in my sheet, and I still need this over time, 'cause I'm over myself, over the hill, I'm over the Rhine, for the millionth time, for the millionth time. I'm overspent, overworked, overlooked, I'm over the Rhine, for the millionth time.
I picked this song because I just wanted to be on the nose. I love this song as like a love letter to Cincinnati, and I had it on my like playlist for moving to Chicago, and it makes me feel very, very nostalgic. And you know, Big Red Machine is a project between Justin Vernon of Bon Iver fame and Aaron Dessner of The National. And they're both good Midwestern boys. And Aaron Dessner is from Cincinnati. And I loved, like, hearing this song when I was living there, hearing this song when I, like, moved away the first time to Dayton, just a little ways up the road. And then hearing this song as I left the state. It was, like, it got progressively, like, more nostalgic. And I love the lyrical motif of, like overworked, overspent, and how he does that. And that to me invokes fall, because I think an under-discussed portion of fall is how great it is that summer's over. By Virgo season, I'm so done with summer, and I felt like this song in its kind of melancholy kind of captured that feeling of being done with where you are, which was metaphorically resonant for me in a lot of ways, as I was done with where I was living and like the season of my life. And so this was a very big song for me as I transitioned seasons of life, and is therefore, I think, a good song for the literal transition of seasons.
I had kind of forgotten about this project. Like, I'm not a big fan of The National, mostly out of spite, to be honest. I have tried multiple times for this show, and I've yet to find it. But somewhere, one of the guys in The National made some comment when they had moved to Brooklyn about how they left Cincinnati because there were no good venues and there were no good bars, or something to that effect. And, like, they were young, and it was a stupid thing to say. And they've since moved back. But I'm like, I'm just so spiteful. Yeah. I'm like, come on, guys. Don't be like that. Yeah. Be like Foxy Shazam. Local till you die. But this is really beautiful, and it really captures, I think, the best parts of both of their songwriting styles. I looked up the album, and I was like, this has an aesthetic to it that I just, like, I'm familiar with, and I don't know what it is. And then I saw that it was recorded at Long Pond.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, okay, so this is just part of that whole big, like, ultra popular indie people living at this studio in New York during COVID and making like 5 best-selling records.
Yeah.
For those who aren't familiar, Long Pond is where Jack Antonoff and Taylor Swift and St. Vincent and all these people retreated to during the pandemic and made Folklore and Evermore and Daddy's Home and just like all of these great records, it's all the same people like working out of the same studio, which is kind of magical.
This record is basically Evermore Part 2. This time Taylor isn't singing.
And I'm good with that. I'm down. I think this song is beautiful. I love the arrangement. It's very spare but still lush. Yeah, it gives me all the Evermore vibes, but like you said, with a different vocal palette. And the lyrics are very lived in. They definitely feel like home.
They really do hit all the big ones. All the big words that you need to say, he says them about Cincinnati. You're like, dang, you got them all. Which I feel like it... which has a weird feeling for me because I'm like, I want to like point at it and be like, I know that place. I know that too. And I'm like, maybe after I listen to it a few more times, like I won't be like have to like call, like be like point at it every time. But I'm like, it's too fair. It's also clever how they sort of like wrap everything together into the songs, and it feels you're like, okay, this is cute. This is cute. It's not as like. As overt as it could be. It's clearly like some good wordsmithing going on. I like that it is folksy adjacent. It really feels kind of like, we've already said Evermore, but it does. You're like, yeah, it's kind of like how you have an acoustic guitar, but there's like sort of like this nebulous sort of like distortion wave, like sort of like wave of sound in the background that sort of is like. It makes it feel modern, contemporary. Yeah, I feel like I owe it to myself to actually listen to this project, considering these are like two big names. I actually have not. I've barely listened to Eddie Bon Iver either, so like I really am doing a disservice to I feel like to my musical literacy. But yeah, I think it's just a sort of nice, simple song that I feel like has just some cute lyrics that I feel like it really does feel like fall. And I feel like a lot of the lyrics also sort of have like evoke a sort of fall sort of vibe to it. And it feels chill, feels relaxed, doesn't feel like it's really trying to really force your attention in like a strong way. And like, you don't need every song to like be like grabbing at you. You just need a song that you're like, windows down, hanging out, having a good time, seeing some friends, you're just relaxing. And I feel like this is perfect for it.
I love the concept of like Midwestern Gothic, and that's what this song is to me.
Could easily be the theme song of a season of True Detective.
Yeah.
Set in Cincinnati.
Okay, before I get to my sad point, I'll talk about what I thought was really interesting. I like the use of guitar and cajon as the percussion section for this, because it doesn't like overpower the more delicate, plucky guitars, and that's really nice. And sometimes when there's like some reverb added to that, I think it makes this song feel very big, even though it's very delicate, and that's like a really beautiful balancing act that has to happen there. Man, this is like a cry your eyes out fall song for me. Like, I've harped on it because I just moved a lot, but I feel like just the fact that it's so much about being over things. I feel like sometimes when I can speak for myself, when fall is coming and we're like closing out the year, and I'm thinking like, this sucks. I'm like, it's almost like I like fall because there's something new that I'm looking forward to, but also it's like a relief to know that some of it is over, that like we're kind of here, and I maybe that's the beauty in it for me now. And I remember when I left Ohio, like 7 years ago, it was sad, and I was like very happy to come back. And sometimes songs like this remind me that was the right choice. Like, I needed to go away. I needed that time to find out why I wanted to be here. And songs like these make me feel like it wasn't in vain. Like now I can appreciate that this much. I appreciate it more because of that experience, and so thank you for putting this on here, because I feel like this has helped me discover this about me. And also, I didn't realize until about the second listen that it was called the Big Red Machine, like the Reds.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, what do you know? Full circle here. But yeah, no, this is good. Thank you for putting this on here.
Welcome. Cool.
All right, Tyler, we saved you for last.
That's right.
Bring it home.
Why. It feels like a bad choice. All right, this week I chose The Old West Side by The Tillers.
Believe with this old guitar and me have gotten ourselves into and the places that we've been. So let it reel, let it rock, let it rectify your soul. Let our bones keep dancing around till our bodies all turn cold. And when our run is through, I know where I'll reside with the ladies and gents on the old west side.
So the Tillers are a local folk, bluegrass, alternative. I don't know. There's probably a lot of indie, whatever. You can throw a lot of subgenres on top of it. But they're roughly from the Cincinnati area, and I've known about for quite a bit. This album came out in 2013. I'm just rotating my chair again. This album came out in 2013, and I feel like I got a chance to see him at least like once or twice. And so this album has always sort of been in my mind and sort of like stuck in there. Like, eventually I'm going to find a good use for this. And so, talking about fall, and we kind of had a real discussion about like fall feels like folk because you're going out into the country and it sort of feels like the music of the mountains, right? And so I feel like this sort of genre also works well because, we are like Appalachia adjacent, and so like bluegrass really sort of like fits in there. It was really important to me to find a song that I felt like at least was somewhat relevant to the music of Ohio, because I feel like there's a few different things you could have gone. There's classic rock and roll. You can do like a funk, maybe not for fall, but you get a little funky with fall. And then I feel like blues could also work. And I feel like a lot of like folk music also really works well here. Sort of like in my research, I found a lot of Kentucky-based artists that were doing this sort of sound almost, and so I was like, well, I can't choose someone from Kentucky. It's a little too close. You can't say Kentucky when we're talking about Ohio, so I had to stick with it. Anyway, so I think what really strikes me about this song is that I feel like it does a good job of sort of giving you a sort of hopefulness in like the sort of like the good and the bad of life. It feels upbeat. Because it feels like you're sort of like I was saying, sort of like a summer drive. You're sort of like you're fully taking in the rays of the sun and really just sort of enjoying the part of fall that feels warm. It feels good. And so one of the best parts is there's a really good lyric that I feel like really resonates with me, is like, and it's always stuck with me, is, well, you really find it. For some reason, the phrase of "I found joy and I found sorrow and it all could change tomorrow" rolls off the tongue so beautifully, and I feel like really sort of like embodies almost sort of like that Midwestern spirit of like, we're not the coolest, we're not the worst, we make do with what we got, very like salt of the earth, very blue collar, and like having worked with like people from all over the country doing like remote work and stuff like that, I've kind of sort of really started to enjoy sort of like my, I guess, humble origins as a Midwestern suburban kid. It really feels like I feel like I'm in a place, and I feel like this song just sort of makes me feel sort of at home, makes me feel like we have a place that has like a rich culture and has lots of things that are good about it, and just sort of worth sort of like just sort of knowing. And like I said, folky. This feels folly. So, there you go.
Yeah, this is jamboree music right here. This is around the bonfire type of stuff.
Yeah.
I dig this for the fall. I feel like if my song was driving to the hoedown, your song is the hoedown, and then Natalie's song is like kind of the afterglow. We're creating a narrative here. We're building an arc.
Yeah, I was going to say, this does feel very much like we're at the function now. And it reminded me of like the way that Ohio is like, it is very clearly the Midwest, but there is like Southern influence that is undeniable, and it does have its own like distinct folk traditions that are reminiscent of like Southern culture. And it reminded me of like stories that my dad would tell about like, you know, the big event in his small town being like a gathering at a park gazebo and everybody like dancing and stuff. And I was like, ooh, I feel like I'm probably in 1980 whatever when they were doing that in nowhere, Ohio. So it was cool.
I feel like this episode has turned into us like shamelessly pimping Ohio. I mean, I know that that's what the challenge is, but it's very much like...
I did get a podcast ad this week about Ohio's a great place to start your small business. Maybe we should apply for like a tourism grant. I'm just saying.
Now we're cooking.
I like this as like a roots song, right? Like it feels folky, but it also has a very like rootsy feeling too. That you have like the banjo, which is, I think it's like this and the dulcimer are like the only native North American instruments or something.
That sounds right.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
wow.
I'm not a big fan of banjo either, and I think that the Tillers are like, they did it very well, right? Like it doesn't have to be this like Steve Martin, Kermit the Frog sitting on a log like plucking thing, and so it's nice. Like it adds something there that I like, and I would have never guessed it. They're from Cincinnati too. So you totally caught me there. I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And I've been listening to a couple more of their songs, and I'm definitely going to check them out more, because I didn't realize that they basically all, like the other guy, the guitar player, sings too, and his voice is really good as well. So
Tecumseh on the Battlefield is another favorite of mine.
Okay. That's... What this is just they're just like owning this Ohio identity.
Yeah. Tecumseh
it doesn't
was
get much
the
more
name of
Ohio
my
than
high
that.
school.
That's right. I knew I'd heard that before.
Yep.
I did a book report on him at a very young age.
But have you gone to the outdoor Tecumseh play?
I have
near
not, but my
Chillicothe?
parents did. And they were like, you're going eventually. I was like, okay.
It's Ohio rite of passage.
Wow, you just awoke a memory. I think I did do that. Did they do? Was it like an outdoor amphitheater?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did they do in the autumn time? Did they do like Sleepy Hollow too? I think it was like
so.
Summer was Tecumseh and like the Blue Jackets or Yellow Jacket or something like that, and then autumn was Sleepy Hollow.
I'm sure it was. That sounds exactly right.
Almost certainly.
Wow.
All right, so now it's time for listener submissions. So right out the gate, if I mispronounce your song, don't know who they are, mispronounce your handle, or don't know who you are, I apologize. But we're going to go down this road together as friends into the fall in Ohio. So Felice, did I get that right?
Flailess? Flawless?
Flawless?
There's not a question mark, it's just flawless. Okay, so flawless, two entries, Grand Theft Autumn.
Fall Out Boy song, classic.
Ooh, so
okay,
good.
I was going to say, that song better be, like, amazing.
Had to listen to that album after she put that in. I was like, all right, it's Fall Out Boy time, apparently.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good play on words, too. I guess I didn't put it together that it was Fall Out Boy. All right, and then God Bless the Girl by Belle and Sebastian. I feel like people know this.
Belle and Sebastian are very fall as well. Good chamber pop.
Julie and Seth picked... This is like a joke on me, isn't it?
You really chose it.
How do you say that?
Mahavishnu Orchestra.
Mahavishnu Orchestra's Lotus on the Irish Stream. There's a lot of like international flavor to that.
The fact that you picked a Mahavishnu Orchestra song and it isn't the one that everyone knows. Incredible. Because the only Mahavishnu Orchestra song I know or remember is I want to say it's Meeting of the Spirits, which is on the same record, but it's the one that Kanye sampled in Power.
What is this album? What is happening?
If y'all don't know, John McLaughlin's Mahavishnu Orchestra and their debut album, The Inner Mounting Flame, it's worth a listen. It's really loud progressive rock jazz fusion from the early 70s. It's like Santana, but more jazz.
I'm gonna act up right now.
Anybody just
Say no more.
For a while, it was the only jazz LP that I owned. So I was like, ooh, but it's like Pink Floyd jazz. It is not. It's not.
Huh. This is an interesting song. I'm listening to it right now. I get what you're saying. It does have a very fall feel to it, though. And with that, it's time for our B-sides. What you got?
I shot from the hip.
He knew.
Picked the song at the concert.
Sent it on a Tuesday.
That's right.
My B-sides, I was picking a Trampled by Churros song. I did give far enough to pick the exact one. The Fading by Joan Shelley. Teeth Marks by S.G. Goodman. Literally probably most things by Tyler Childers, but I'd already picked them at one point, so I wasn't going to do it, but I was thinking about it. Everyone loves Tyler Childers. I've seen it. And then probably anything by Iris DeMent because she's a country icon. So
I only had one other alternative, and it was Ohio by Neil Young, and then I was like, that's too sad.
yeah.
I think we've made that same exact argument before for a different challenge. Yeah, like great song, too sad.
Too sad.
I was gonna do Halloween by Phoebe Bridgers. That was almost my choice, and My Backwards Walk by Frightened Rabbit was also in contention.
Very nice.
Frightened Rabbit. I don't know if I feel like I've listened.
Oh, dude! If you haven't,
I've been missing out.
Yeah, that song is one of my favorite songs. I love that song. The Modern Leper is another great one. Yeah, you should definitely check them out if you haven't.
Maybe like I think my other one, and it's not really so much that it fit. It's just on the top of my mind. Boredom by Tyler the Creator. It's probably because I watched him in FX's Tyson. I don't know if you guys have seen that. He's a really good actor. I was very convinced. I mean, you can tell that it's Tyler the Creator, but I mean, he's a solid actor. I've been listening to this album a lot too lately, so I feel like it'll probably be, I don't know, is taped over the right word? Fall, the vibes of fall will probably be taped over this album for me. So
fair enough. Well, Natalie, Michael, thank you so much for joining us. This is the part where you get to shamelessly plug all of your things. Where can our listeners find you? Tell them about your podcast, whatever you got going on.
Natalie, do you want me to take it?
It doesn't matter. We can do it in partnership like we do.
That sounds good.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, for sure. And congrats on 200 episodes.
Yeah, for real.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
We just don't know when to stop. It's not really something to be that proud of.
It's true.
We are in the same boat.
Yep.
You can find our show, My Ex and I, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're also on Instagram. The handle is
My Ex and I Pod.
Yes, not podcast. Just you can stop at pod.
I shortened it.
And then you'll find us. Yeah, we publish weekly on Mondays. We love when people listen and then like reach out to us. We're very approachable, nice people. Sometimes we don't reply to messages because we, are sad, but we will see it and we'll be excited. So
that's a good pitch. And you can follow me personally if you want at Michael G. Bishop on everything. Oh, and just as a brief pitch for our podcast, it's just a comedy podcast that's an exploration of our friendship post-romantic relationship. And so, sometimes specific topics breaking down the relationship, but sometimes it's just us being buddies and having fun and making each other laugh.
Well, Tyler, if people want to have a pumpkin spice latte with you, where can they do that?
I also just want to say I listen to My Ex and I because I feel like there's something about the sort of soul resonance between two people that know each other so well, and I feel like they really are able to riff and goof on just about anything. It feels like it's buttery smooth. It's jazz, baby. I feel like it's always very fun to listen to. So I would highly recommend it. But
Thank you.
you can find my design illustration work at rudepets.club, and as always, on the socials, that's Rude Pets Club on Instagram and Twitter.
Sean, if people want to cozy up next to the campfire with you, where can they do that?
You can find me on Instagram at TallySean.
And if you want to go apple picking with me, I am on the socials at TC Olmstead. All of these songs will be on the official No Repeat podcast playlist on Apple Music and Spotify. And we'll be back next week with another episode of No Repeat.